Welcome to the Sleep Hours, the only place where cartoons fall asleep before you do. So grab your blanket, tuck in your favorite plushie, and let's get weird. Tonight we're sailing to a peaceful seaside world where the moonlight shimmers on calm waves and the stars twinkle just for you. We'll join Popeye and Olive for a quiet night by the ocean, a night full of warmth, soft lullabies, so close your eyes when you feel ready, and let the calm of the sea carry you to a serene, restful sleep. The sky above the quiet seaside town had melted into a soft indigo, dotted with pinpricks of starlight that twinkled like tiny lanterns hung by the heavens themselves. The ocean stretched out in gentle waves, the kind that whispered secrets only the night could understand. Popeye's small boat bobbed lightly near the wooden dock, creaking in rhythm with the soft tide. He leaned back against the worn planks, his weathered sailor's hat tipped slightly over one eye, letting the breeze brush across his freckled cheeks. The day had been long, the kind that left his muscles pleasantly tired and his heart strangely light. No Bluto, no trouble, just the endless hum of the sea, the faint scent of salt in the air, and the satisfaction of a day well spent. A soft shuffle of footsteps and the gentle clink of a picnic basket pulled Popeye from his quiet reverie. Olive Oil appeared at the end of the dock, her scarf fluttering slightly with the evening breeze. A warm smile stretched across her face. "Hiya, Popeye," she said, her voice the perfect mixture of excitement and relief, like she'd been carrying a secret joy all day long. "I thought you might like a little snack after your long day at sea." Popeye's one eye crinkled in a grin, and he gave a cheerful, "Ahoy, Olive! You always know just what a sailor needs." He sat up a bit straighter, letting her settle beside him. The wooden planks of the dock were cool beneath them, the slight sway of the ocean, a gentle lullaby. Olive set the picnic basket down, revealing a simple, comforting spread. Small sandwiches wrapped in parchment, a thermos of cocoa, and a few fresh fruits. Nothing fancy, nothing rushed, just the kind of cozy meal that somehow felt like a hug in edible form. "I even brought some of your favorite cookies," Olive whispered, her eyes sparkling with a playful glint. "Not the crunchy ones this time, promise?" Popeye chuckled softly, the sound rough yet tender, a low sailor's rumble that mingled with the gentle slap of waves against the dock. He picked up a cookie and took a careful bite, savoring the sweetness, the warmth of the moment, and the quiet company. "Gosh, Olive," he said between bites, "you sure know how to make a sailor feel right at home." They sat together in companionable silence for a while, the kind that doesn't need words. The soft glow from a lantern hung on the dock cast golden light across their faces, dancing on Olive's cheeks and highlighting the lines of contentment on Popeye's. A faint lighthouse beam swept across the horizon, rhythmic and slow, like a silent sentinel watching over the calm waters. The stars above shimmered, reflecting faintly in Popeye's sea-blue eyes, and for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath, suspended in a perfect, serene pause. Olive reached out, brushing her fingers against Popeye's hand. "You know," she said softly, her voice almost blending with the lapping waves, "the stars look extra bright tonight, almost like they're telling stories." Popeye hummed thoughtfully, his voice low and melodic. "Aye, the sea's got its own stories, too, but I reckon the stars, they know a thing or two about keeping secrets." He tipped his hat back slightly, letting the breeze ruffle his hair. Olive giggled, leaning closer as she took in the salty scent of his sailor's jacket, the faint hint of ocean still clinging to him. They shared a simple meal together, laughing softly at small memories and the occasional clumsy seagull daring to swoop close to their basket. The conversation was gentle, easy, no urgency, no interruptions. Just the steady rhythm of two hearts, quietly enjoying each other's presence. Popeye hummed a little tune between bites, a melody that seemed to ripple over the waves, while Olive talked softly about the shimmer of the stars, the way the moonlight danced on the water, and funny things that had happened in the town that day. As the evening stretched on, the colors of the sky deepened into a richer, velvety darkness, and the waves whispered even more quietly, like lullabies for the restless world. Popeye leaned back, resting his arm along the edge of the dock. Olive nestled closer, her head tilting slightly toward him, her scarf fluttering in the gentle breeze. "Isn't it nice?" she murmured. "Just being here?" Popeye's eyes softened, a rare tenderness in his sailor's gaze. "Aye, Olive. It's real nice. Just us, the stars, and the sea. Nothing else matters." He reached into the basket again, pulling out a small thermos. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "A bit of cocoa to keep you warm." Olive accepted it with a smile, her fingers brushing his, and for a moment, the world seemed perfectly balanced, quiet, gentle, and infinitely cozy. Olive took a small sip of the cocoa, the warmth spreading through her like a gentle hug. She watched the ripples of the water, how the moon's reflection danced lightly across the surface, as if the ocean itself were winking at them. "You ever notice," she said softly, "how the moon kind of makes everything look magical? Even the dock, even the waves?" Popeye tilted his head, his one eye narrowing in thoughtful admiration. "Aye, the moon's got a way of turning the simplest things into something special. Kind of like spinach," he added with a playful wink. Olive laughed, the sound mingling with the whispers of the waves and the occasional distant call of a night bird. They sat closer now, legs dangling over the edge of the dock, the gentle sway of the water making them rock ever so slightly. Popeye hummed a soft sailor's tune, one he'd picked up somewhere in his travels, low and comforting. The melody seemed to echo over the sea, blending with the faint scent of salt and the hush of the nights. Olive hummed along quietly, her voice light, almost like a whisper carried on the breeze, and Popeye's smile softened further. "You always know how to make a moment feel." "Right," Olive murmured, her eyes reflecting the starlight above. She shifted a little to face him more directly, resting her hands on the wooden plank between them. Popeye's rough, sailor-worn hand covered hers instinctively, a protective warmth that made the quiet evening feel even cozier. "A sailor like me," he said, voice low and gruff but gentle, "learns a thing or two about cherishing calm nights, especially when I got someone like you by my side." Olive's smile widened, and she leaned back just slightly, letting the breeze ruffle her scarf as she took in the serene scene. "I love it here. Just us, the ocean, and the stars," she said softly. "No rushing, no fighting, no crazy adventures for a little while. Just peace." Popeye nodded, tipping his hat back just a fraction. "Aye, Olive. Peace ain't something we get often, but when we do, we savor it." He paused, glancing out over the water and the moonlight shimmering across the gentle waves like a pathway of silver. "Look at that," he said, gesturing with a thumb. "The sea's calm, the stars are bright, and I reckon the world feels just right." Olive giggled, pointing toward a cluster of stars overhead. "See that one up there? That's the Sailor Star. I read somewhere it guides you home. Think it's shining for us tonight?" Popeye followed her gaze, squinting at the constellation. "Well, if it is, I sure hope it knows the way to a sailor's cozy dock with a fine lady and cocoa." He chuckled, a deep, happy sound that made Olive laugh again, her hand squeezing his gently. The wind shifted softly, brushing Popeye's hat and Olive's scarf. It carried the faint scent of salt and seaweed, a whisper of distant waves lapping against the shoreline. The lighthouse in the distance cast its slow, sweeping beam across the horizon, touching the dock for a brief moment before moving on. It was a rhythm both steady and comforting, like the heartbeat of the night itself. Popeye leaned back, resting on his elbows, watching the stars blink above him. Olive settled closer, her head tilting slightly against his shoulder. "You think the stars have stories?" she asked, her voice barely above the soft lapping of the waves. Popeye smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the silver glow of the moon. "Hi, Olive. The stars got plenty of stories, some funny, some brave, some just like this." He gestured to the calm sea, the dock, the warm lantern light, and the quiet night surrounding them. "All the best stories are the ones you share with someone who matters." Olive's eyes softened, a warm glow of contentment washing over her. She shifted just a little closer, and Popeye adjusted his posture so she could rest more comfortably against him. The gentle sway of the dock, the hush of the waves, and the faint beam of the lighthouse combined into a lullaby so subtle it felt as though the night itself was singing them to sleep. They lingered there, neither speaking for several moments, letting the tranquility settle deep into their bones. Popeye hummed his tune quietly, a rhythm as old as the sea, while Olive's gaze drifted between the stars and the moonlit water, her fingers occasionally brushing the rough edges of his sailor's hand. Every so often, a small wave would lap against the dock, sending a soft, watery chime echoing across the night, and both of them would glance at it with gentle smiles, as if the ocean itself was sharing in their quiet joy. Time seemed to stretch, bending with the ebb and flow of the tide, carrying them gently into the heart of the evening. The picnic basket sat forgotten for a few moments, the cocoa cooling, the sandwiches untouched, but neither seemed to mind. Here in this perfect starlit serenity, nothing else existed but the soft rhythm of the waves, the gentle warmth of lantern light, and the comforting presence of each other. The night deepened, folding the sky into a velvet blanket dotted with countless shimmering stars. Popeye shifted slightly, letting his back rest against the dock post as Olive leaned a little closer, her head tilting just enough to catch the lantern's soft glow on her cheekbones. The breeze played with her scarf again, and Popeye chuckled softly. "You know, Olive, that scarf of yours, it's got more personality than half the folks I've met at sea," he said, his voice low and teasing. Olive laughed quietly, the sound mingling with the gentle sigh of the ocean. "Well, it's got to keep me cozy, and it's seen me through a lot. Just like this moment," she replied, eyes glimmering with warmth. Popeye hummed in agreement, a soft, tuneful sound that seemed to melt into the rhythm of the waves. The dock beneath them creaked slightly as the tide shifted, but neither of them minded. Each gentle sway felt like part of the night's quiet dance. Olive tilted her head back, gazing at the constellations above. "See that cluster over there?" she said softly. "I read that sailors used to follow it to find their way home. They called it the Wayfinder." Popeye's one eye twitched thoughtfully as he followed her finger. "Aye, looks familiar. Kind of like memories of home and hearth. Makes a fella feel grounded even when the sea's got other plans." He paused, his gaze softening. "Funny thing, the sea teaches you a lot about patience and appreciation. Nights like these, well, they're reminders why a sailor likes what he's got when he's got it." Olive smiled, her hands clasped lightly in her lap. "I like it too. The stillness, the calm, the way the moon paints the water. It feels like the world is holding its breath just for us." Popeye nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Aye, and a fella appreciates it all the more when he's got good company." The waves lapped quietly against the dock posts, each gentle splash a soothing percussion had kept time with Popeye's soft hum. Olive reached out, brushing a few strands of hair from her face, her fingers catching the lantern's glow. "You know," she said, her voice soft and reflective, "it's funny. We always have adventures, but sometimes the simplest nights are the best. Just us, the stars, the sea, a quiet picnic." Popeye's eyes crinkled in thought. "Aye, Olive. Sometimes the greatest adventures aren't fought with fists or spinach, but felt quietly, like a sailor's heart at rest. And tonight, I reckon this is one of them." He leaned back slightly, letting the cool night air brush over him, the scent of salt and seaweed filling his senses. Olive nestled a little closer, enjoying the gentle rise and fall of the dock, as if it were rocking them toward sleep. For a while, neither spoke. The only sounds were the soft splash of waves and the distant cry of a night gull returning to roost. Lantern light flickered gently, casting playful shadows across their faces, the dock, and the basket beside them. Occasionally, Popeye would hum a few bars of his sailor's tune, and Olive would hum back quietly, the two melodies blending seamlessly with the night. Olive leaned back fully now, letting her gaze roam across the water. "Do you think the ocean ever gets lonely?" she asked, more to herself than to Popeye. Popeye smiled softly, his rough voice almost a whisper. Maybe it does sometimes. But then it remembers. It's never truly alone. There's the moon, the stars, and the folks who love it, like tonight, Olive. It's got us." Olive's smile deepened. "I love that thought," she said, resting her chin on her hand. "It makes the night feel friendly somehow, like everything's right where it should be." Popeye nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon, where the lighthouse's beam lazily swept across the water. "Aye, and a fella likes the feeling of rightness after a long day. Makes the world seem smaller, easier, cozy." They lingered there, letting the quiet of the seaside night sink in. A soft gust of wind brought the smell of sea salt even closer, rustling Olive's scarf and ruffling Popeye's hat. She giggled lightly, letting the breeze tousle her hair as she glanced at him. "Your hat's got its own little dance tonight," she teased gently. Popeye laughed softly, the sound low and comforting. "Aye, 'tis a sailor's hat, always ready to ride the wind. Just like me, Olive." The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, each one a tiny reminder of endless possibilities. Popeye tilted his head toward the sky, tracing invisible lines between them. "See, even the stars like to tell stories," he murmured. "Some of 'em funny, some brave, some just quiet like this." Olive leaned closer, resting her shoulder lightly against his, and for a moment, all the soft sounds, the water, the wind, the distant lighthouse, seemed like a lullaby meant just for them. The dock creaked softly beneath them, the sound blending seamlessly with the gentle rhythm of the waves. Popeye rested an elbow on the wooden railing, his gaze drifting toward the horizon where the sea met the sky in a seamless curtain of midnight blue. Olive, sitting just a little closer than before, tucked her knees to her chest, her scarf fluttering gently in the cool night breeze. "Do you ever think about all the nights you've spent out at sea, Popeye?" she asked softly, her voice almost carried away by the whispering waves. Popeye chuckled, a low gruff sound, the kind that always made Olive smile. "Aye, I've seen plenty of nights, Olive. Stormy ones, starry ones, some that made a fella glad to be alive, and some that, well, teach you humility." He paused for a moment, letting the sound of the ocean fill the silence before adding, "But nights like this, they're special. Makes a sailor appreciate what he's got waiting for him on shore." Olive smiled, her eyes reflecting the moonlight on the water. I like that, she said. It's like the ocean itself is giving us a little present. Quiet, peaceful, and just for us. She nudged her shoulder lightly against his, and Popeye's smile softened. Aye, and it's a gift best shared, he murmured, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Olive laughed quietly, the sound like tiny bells over the water. You make it sound like poetry, Popeye. He grinned, tilting his hat back slightly. A sailor's gotta be poetic sometimes, Olive, especially when the night's this nice and the company's this fine. She blushed faintly, brushing at her cheeks, and looked back toward the horizon. The lighthouse beam swept lazily across the waves, a faint golden shimmer that reflected on the dock and their quiet forms. The scene felt timeless, like a painting set in the hush of eternity. I like the way the moonlight hits the water, Olive whispered, leaning a little forward to trace the shimmering path with her eyes. It's like a silver ribbon wrapping around the sea. Popeye followed her gaze, letting a rare moment of awe settle over him. It's beautiful, ain't it? Makes a sailor feel like there's something bigger watching over him. Keeps you humble and grateful. They shared a gentle silence, each listening to the soft symphony of the night, the faint slap of waves against the dock posts, the distant cry of a night gull, the soft rustle of Olive's scarf in the breeze, and Popeye's own quiet humming. Occasionally he would hum a little tune from one of his old sea shanties, soft and low, letting the melody drift over the water like a tender lullaby. Olive hummed along quietly, adding a delicate counterpoint, her voice blending perfectly with his rough, comforting tones. You ever tell stories about the sea, Popeye? Olive asked after a while, her eyes glimmering with curiosity. Not the crazy adventures, but the gentle ones. The ones that make nights like this feel magical. Popeye's grin softened into a thoughtful smile. Aye, I reckon I can. The sea's got plenty of stories. Some brave, some funny, some quiet like this one. And I think tonight, it's the perfect time for a quiet tale. He leaned back on the dock, letting the soft sway cradle him, and Olive adjusted her position, leaning against him a little more comfortably. The lantern beside them flickered, sending tiny shadows dancing across their faces in the wooden planks. Popeye's voice lowered into a soft, storytelling tone, gruff but gentle, like the tide itself was carrying his words. There was once a little sailor, not much bigger than a lighthouse beam on a dark night, who set out to see the world, but learned that the best adventures weren't always about the biggest waves or the fastest ships. Sometimes they were about quiet nights, under stars, or with someone you cared about right there by your side. Olive smiled, her eyes glimmering with both affection and the soft anticipation of more stories. She shifted slightly to rest her head lightly on his shoulder, letting the warmth of his presence mingle with the gentle sea breeze. I like that sailor, she whispered. He sounds happy. Popeye hummed softly in agreement, his rough voice blending with the night. Aye, he is happy. And he's got a good companion, just like me. He gave her hand a gentle squeeze, and Olive returned the gesture, fingers lacing lightly. The world around them, the waves, the stars, the lighthouse, felt like it had slowed just for them, like the night itself was holding them in a gentle, endless embrace. The smell of salt, the cool brush of wind, the soft rocking of the dock, and the warm glow of the lantern combined to make everything feel cocooned in comfort. Olive glanced up at Popeye, her smile soft and content. You know, I could stay like this forever. Popeye chuckled, the sound rough yet tender. Aye, Olive. Me too. Nights like these, they're worth holding on to. He leaned back, letting the gentle sway of the dock carry them both as they settled into a quiet, peaceful lull. The sea whispered, the stars twinkled, and the lighthouse's beam traced lazy arcs across the waves, painting everything in calm, comforting light. The night had deepened into a soft, velvety darkness, the stars above twinkling like tiny lanterns scattered across the sky. Popeye and Olive sat side by side on the dock, their legs dangling lazily over the edge, feet just brushing the water. The gentle waves lapped against the wooden post below, each splash a tiny drum beat in the quiet symphony of the evening. Lantern light flickered, casting soft, warm shadows across their faces, making Olive's cheeks glow and highlighting the lines of contentment around Popeye's eyes. Olive tilted her head back, letting the cool breeze brush her face. "It's so calm tonight. Almost like the sea is telling us a secret," she whispered. Popeye nodded, his one eye narrowing thoughtfully. "Aye, the sea's always got secrets. Some funny, some brave, some just peaceful, like tonight." He gave a soft chuckle, the sound rough but tender. Olive reached out and brushed her fingers against his hand, the warmth of his skin comforting against the cool night air. "Do you ever think about how many people have watched the same stars we're looking at?" Olive asked softly. "Sailors, dreamers, even people long ago sitting on docks like this, thinking about someone they care about." Popeye's grin softened, a rare tenderness in his rough sailor's gaze. "Aye, makes a fella feel connected, doesn't it? Like we're part of something bigger. And maybe, just maybe, the stars are keeping watch over us all." He tipped his hat back slightly, letting the breeze ruffle his hair. Olive giggled, leaning a little closer as the wind tugged at her scarf. "You always know what to say, Popeye. It's comforting." Popeye's voice lowered, almost a whisper now, blending with the gentle rhythm of the waves. "Well, a sailor learns a thing or two about comforting words, and sometimes it's the quiet moments, not the loud ones, that matter most." Olive smiled, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. "I like quiet moments," she said softly, "especially with you." They sat like that for a long while, letting the world fade away, the gentle rocking of the dock beneath them, the soft glow of the lantern, the silver path of moonlight stretching across the ocean. Popeye hummed his little sailor tune, soft and soothing, while Olive's breath grew slower and lighter as she soaked in the calm. Occasionally, a small wave lapped against the dock, a tender reminder the steady, comforting rhythm of the sea. "Do you remember the first time we came out here?" Olive asked after a while, her voice almost dreamy. Popeye's grin widened. "Aye, I remember. You were fussing about bringing too many sandwiches, and I was fussing about not getting my feet wet. But we made it, didn't we?" Olive laughed softly. "We did. And it's funny how things like that feel even bigger in memory. But tonight feels like one of those memories all at once." Popeye shifted slightly, letting his arm rest behind her as they leaned back on the dock. "Aye, Olive. Nights like this, they're rare, but they're worth holding on to. The stars, the sea, and you. Makes a sailor feel, well, like he's home." Olive smiled, letting the warmth of his words wrap around her like a soft blanket. "I could stay here forever," she whispered. Popeye chuckled with a low, gentle sound. "Aye, and me too. The night's got a way of turning slow, and soon it'll be dream time." They shared a quiet laugh, and Olive nestled even closer, the lantern casting a golden glow across their peaceful forms. The lighthouse beams swept lazily across the water, like a sleepy sentinel keeping watch over the night. Popeye hummed his tune again, softer this time, and Olive's eyelids grew heavy, her breathing slowing in time with the gentle lull of the waves. The dock creaked softly under them, The wind whispered through her scarf, and the ocean's endless rhythm became a lullaby. Popeye leaned back, his rough hand brushing gently against hers. "Sleep tight, Olive. The sea'll keep watch, and so will I," he murmured in his gruff but tender voice. Olive let out a soft sigh, content, and shifted closer to rest her head fully on his shoulder. The stars twinkled above him, the lantern flickered, and the waves hummed their timeless song. In that perfect, quiet moment, Popeye and Olive were exactly where they were meant to be, safe, warm, and cocooned in the gentle embrace of a seaside night. The world had slowed, the adventure of the day faded into calm, and for the first time in a long while, everything felt just right. And as the night held them in its tender rhythm, both Popeye and Olive let their eyes close slowly, hearts light, ready to drift into dreams carried by the whispering waves, the shimmering stars, and the quiet magic of the sea. The stars above had grown brighter as the night stretched on, each one a tiny beacon shimmering against the velvet indigo sky. The lighthouse's beam continued its slow sweep across the water, casting fleeting silver streaks that danced on the gentle waves. Popeye and Olive sat side by side on the dock, leaning back on their elbows, legs dangling lazily over the edge. The ocean's hush seemed to encourage them to speak in softer tones, as if even the wind and waves respected the quiet of their moments. Olive tilted her head, tracing patterns with her finger in the air as she looked up at the heavens. "Look at that cluster of stars over there," she whispered. "It almost looks like a little boat sailing across the sky." Popeye's one eye twitched in amusement, a soft smile tugging at his lips. "Aye, tiny boat for tiny sailors, eh? I reckon even the stars need to take a break from twinkling and enjoy a voyage now and then." Olive giggled, the sound light and melodic, carrying across the dock to mingle with the lapping waves. "I like that thought. The stars sailing across the sky just like us out here on our little wooden dock." Popeye hummed, a low, soft tune that fit perfectly with the calm rhythm of the ocean. "Aye, the sea and the stars got a way of teaching a sailor patience, Olive. They remind you, in the quiet moments, they matter more than the loud ones." She leaned a little closer, her head resting lightly on his shoulder, and Popeye adjusted himself to make her more comfortable. The lantern's warm glow flickered across their faces, highlighting Olive's soft features and the faint freckles along Popeye's nose. "You always know how to make quiet moments feel magical," Olive murmured. Popeye chuckled softly, his gruff voice gentle and soothing. "Aye, Olive, a sailor learns a thing or two about magic out at sea. Sometimes it's in the waves, sometimes in the stars, sometimes in the company you keep." He paused, eyes following a shooting star streaking across the sky. "See that one? A wish for sailors and dreamers alike." Olive's eyes widened in delight. "Make a wish, Popeye," she said softly. Popeye's smile deepened. "Aye, I reckon I will. But my wish, well, it's simple. Nights like this, us here, just right." He gave her hand a gentle squeeze. Olive blushed slightly, but smiled warmly, tucking her fingers between his. The moment felt suspended in time, as though the sea itself had paused to hold its breath for them. The waves whispered and lapped gently against the dock, creating a soothing rhythm. Popeye began humming a little tune, low and melodic, while Olive listened, letting the sound wrap around her like a comforting blanket. "That tune," she said softly, "it feels like a lullaby the sea might sing." Popeye grinned, one eye narrowing thoughtfully. "Aye, a sailor's tune for a peaceful night. Even the roughest sea learns to hush a bit for the right company." Olive's gaze drifted between the stars and the water, watching the moon's silver reflection ripple across the gentle waves. "The moon looks so calm tonight," she said almost to herself, "like it's smiling at us." Popeye chuckled, giving a soft shake of his head. "Aye, the moon's a wise one. Keeps watch over the sea, over the dock, over little ladies like you, and old sailors like me." She laughed quietly at his phrasing, the sound carrying like tiny bubbles across the water. "You know, Popeye, even the stars seem friendlier when you're here, like they're happy we're watching them together." Popeye's grin softened into something tender. I think they are, Olive. The stars know good company when they see it." The night air carried a faint chill, but neither of them moved away from the dock. Instead, Popeye pulled his jacket slightly around them both, and Olive tucked her scarf closer. "It's perfect," she whispered. "The sea, the stars, and us." Popeye nodded, humming again, the soft tune blending with the gentle lap of the waves. "Aye, Olive, perfect indeed. Makes a sailor feel at peace." As the lantern flickered, casting playful shadows across the dock, Popeye began speaking in a lower, storytelling tone, his voice gruff but gentle, almost like the sea itself was narrating with him. "Once, and long ago, there was a little sailor, not much taller than a seagull's wing, who sailed far and wide across the ocean, learning the songs of the waves, the whispers of the wind, and the secrets of the stars." Olive leaned closer, eyes wide, letting the night carry them into a shared dream of moonlit adventures and starlit voyages. Olive shifted slightly, letting her head rest more comfortably against Popeye's shoulder. "I like that sailor," she murmured softly. "He sounds brave, but also kind, like someone you could trust with the whole ocean." Popeye chuckled lowly, a sound that blended perfectly with the waves. "Aye, that's the trick, Olive. A sailor learns to be brave, aye, but he also learns to be gentle when it counts most, especially when the stars are out and the nights is quiet." She nodded, her eyes tracing the silver path the moon carved across the water. "I wish I could sail like him, across the stars, too." Popeye's grin softened. "Aye, we all got our own seas to sail, Olive. Some are made of water, some are moments like this." He gave her hand a gentle squeeze, letting the warmth of their fingers laced together anchor the moment. The waves shimmered with reflected starlight, tiny diamonds dancing atop the dark water. Olive let out a soft sigh, the kind that only comes when someone feels completely at ease. "Do you think the sea dreams, Popeye?" she asked thoughtfully. Popeye's eye twitched as he considered, and then he smiled. "Aye, the sea dreams in its own way, dreams of faraway shores, songs of sailors long past. And maybe, just maybe, it dreams of quiet nights with good company, like tonight." Olive giggled quietly, leaning even closer, her scarf brushing gently against Popeye's jacket. "Then I hope it dreams happy things," she whispered. "Just like us." Popeye's soft chuckle rumbled against her ear. "Aye, I reckon it will." The lantern beside them flickered, its warm glow painting tiny shadows on the wooden planks of the dock. Popeye's hum shifted into a gentle rhythm, matching the waves, as if the night itself had synchronized to their quiet presence. Olive closed her eyes briefly, letting the melody of his sailor's tune carry her imagination across starlit seas. Popeye continued his soft story, his voice low, gruff yet tender. This little sailor, he found that the ocean had secrets in every ripple, every wave, and every gust of wind. Some nights the stars would guide him. Sometimes they'd twinkle just to cheer him on. And every so often, he'd meet someone who made the calm nights even calmer, and the bright stars shine a little brighter. Olive peeked up at him, a faint blush on her cheeks. Sounds like he was lucky. Popeye nodded, one eye narrowing fondly. Aye, luckiest sailor in the world. And he knew it, because he never took the quiet nights or good company for granted. He learned that even the smallest moments, sitting on a dock, watching the stars, listening to the waves, could be the grandest adventure of all. Olive smiled softly, letting her gaze wander over the waves, the moon, and the horizon. I think I understand, she said, her voice barely above the whispering tide. Sometimes, adventures don't need wind or waves or big ships. Sometimes, it's enough to just be here. Popeye nodded, his rough hand brushing lightly over hers. Aye, that's right, Olive, and these moments, they stick with a sailor longer than any storm or chase ever could. A gentle breeze rustled Olive's scarf, and Popeye adjusted his posture to let her lean a little more comfortably against him. The waves lapped quietly beneath them, like a lullaby in perfect time with the faint rhythm of his humming. The lighthouse beam continued its slow sweep, illuminating patches of the dock and the gentle ripples of the ocean, painting everything in a soft, magical light. You know, Popeye, Olive murmured after a while, I could sit here forever, just listening to the waves and your stories. Popeye chuckled softly, his voice gruff but full of warmth. Aye, and I could tell 'em forever, too, Olive. Nights like this, they're rare. Best savored slow, with the stars above and good company beside you. She let out a contented sigh, closing her eyes briefly. Promise me we'll always have nights like this, she whispered. Popeye's grin softened into something almost tender. Aye, Olive. As long as there's a dock, a lantern, and the sea, we'll find our quiet nights. Always. The two of them sat there a little longer, the world around them fading into a gentle hush. The stars twinkled endlessly, the ocean rippled softly, and the lighthouse kept its faithful vigil. Popeye hummed, Olive rested against him, and the night itself seemed to wrap them in a perfect, peaceful embrace, an embrace that carried them slowly, gently, into dreams yet to come. The moon hung low over the water, its silver reflection stretching across the gentle waves like a ribbon of light. Olive leaned against Popeye's shoulder, her eyes drifting from the moon to the twinkling stars above. I think the moon looks extra bright tonight, she murmured, almost like it's smiling at us. Popeye tilted his head, his one eye narrowing thoughtfully. Aye, the moon's got a way of shining brighter when it knows someone's watching, especially sailors, and their fine companions. Olive laughed softly, the sound like tiny bells across the calm sea. You really think the stars notice us? She asked. Popeye chuckled, his deep, rough voice low and gentle. Aye, I reckon they do. Every star's got an eye on someone special. Keeps an old sailor humble, and a young lady feeling cozy. Olive shifted slightly, letting her scarf flutter in the breeze as she took a deep, contented breath. It feels magical, she whispered, like the world slowed down just for us. Popeye hummed a soft sailor's tune, letting it drift across the waves. Olive closed her eyes briefly, letting the sound wrap around her like a warm blanket. You're humming. It's like the sea itself is singing along, she said softly. Popeye's grin softened. Aye, now the sea's got a rhythm, Olive. And when a sailor hums, well, the ocean listens. For a long moment they sat in companionable silence, letting the gentle sway of the dock and the whisper of the waves lull them into a sense of perfect calm. Olive peeked up at the sky again, her finger tracing a constellation. Do you see that one? She whispered. It looks like a little ship. Popeye followed her gaze, squinting slightly. Aye, A tiny ship for tiny sailors. Might be the same one I dreamed of when I was young. Sailing far and wide. Olive's eyes sparkled in the lantern's glow. Do you think the little sailor made it home safely? Popeye's smile softened, and he leaned back on the dock, letting his hand rest lightly on hers. Aye, he did. And he found someone to share quiet nights like this with. Someone worth the journey, worth the wait. Someone like you, Olive. She let out a soft, happy sigh, closing her eyes again as the breeze brushed her face. I like that story, she murmured. It feels like it's just for me. Popeye chuckled lowly. Aye, stories are best when shared, Olive. Especially the ones that make the night feel, just right. The waves lapped gently against the dock posts, their soft rhythm matching Popeye's hum. Olive opened her eyes to watch the silver path of the moon on the water, each ripple catching the light like tiny sparks dancing across the sea. It's beautiful, she whispered, like the oceans holding a million tiny lanterns just for us. Popeye nodded, one eye crinkling with contentment. Aye, and each lantern's got a story to tell. Stories of sailors, stories of stars, stories of nights like this, quiet and precious. Olive let her head rest fully on his shoulder, letting the soft sway of the dock and the gentle sound of the ocean cradle her. You know, Popeye, she murmured, I think the stars are talking to each other, whispering secrets about the sea, and maybe even about us. Popeye chuckled softly, his voice rough but tender. Aye, they might be. And if they are, I reckon they approve. The lantern beside them flickered, casting soft shadows that danced across the planks of the dock and the folds of Olive's scarf. Popeye hummed again, slower this time, letting the tune blend seamlessly with the hush of the waves. Olive's breathing grew softer, the contentment of the moment settling deep into her. The little sailor in my story. He always found comfort in nights like this, Popeye said softly, almost like a whisper. The quiet waves, the stars above, and the company of someone who makes the heart light. That's the secret, Olive. Sometimes the grandest adventures aren't about battles or storms. They're about peaceful moments shared under the stars. Olive smiled, her eyes sparkling in the lantern light. I think I understand now, she whispered. Nights like this, they're the real treasures. Popeye's grin softened, and he squeezed her hand gently. Aye, the real treasures indeed. They lingered like that for a long moment, letting the moonlight shimmer across the waves, the gentle lighthouse beams sweep lazily over the water, and the quiet hum of the ocean fill the space between them. Popeye's soft melody wrapped around the dock like a lullaby, while Olive's contented sighs mingled with the sea breeze, creating a perfect, serene harmony. The night wrapped them in its quiet embrace, the moonlight shimmering across the water like silver threads woven to the waves. Olive shifted slightly, resting her head more comfortably against Popeye's shoulder, letting the warmth of his presence mix with the gentle sea breeze. Do you think the stars ever get tired of shining? She asked softly, her voice barely above the whisper of the waves. Popeye chuckled, the sound low and comforting. Aye, maybe they do, but then they remember nights like this, nights worth shining for, nights with good company, calm seas, and quiet hearts. He let his eyes wander over the horizon, where the lighthouse cast a lazy golden beam across the rippling water. Olive watched it too, mesmerized by the gentle sweep of light that seemed to trace a path across the ocean. I love how the moon makes the waves sparkle, she said, a dreamy tone in her voice. It looks like the sea's covered in tiny stars of its own. Popeye nodded slowly, one eye narrowing thoughtfully. Aye, the sea reflects the sky, The stars up there, the waves down here, all part of the same story. Just like us, Olive. Part of the same peaceful moment. Olive let out a soft sigh, her fingers brushing lightly against his. I could listen to your stories all night, Popeye. Even the quiet ones. They make the sea feel alive, like it's talking just to her. Popeye grinned, a tender softness in his rough expression. Aye, that's the trick, Olive. A sailor learns the sea's language, and he learns the best way to share it is with someone who listens. The waves lapped gently against the dock posts, the water catching the moonlight in tiny, glittering flashes. Popeye's hum drifted across the wooden planks, soft and soothing, while Olive's breathing grew slower, more contented. Do you think the little sailor in your story ever felt this calm? She asked softly. Popeye nodded, his grin gentle. Aye, he did. He learned that calm nights were just as important as any stormy adventure. Sometime, they taught him more than 100 battles at sea, the quiet moments, the shared silences. They're the treasures of a sailor's heart. Olive smiled, resting more fully against him, feeling the gentle sway of the dock beneath them. I think I understand now, she whispered. Adventures aren't always loud or fast. Sometimes, the best ones are quiet, soft like this. Popeye's rough hand brushed lightly over hers. Aye, that's right, Olive. Nights like this, they're worth remembering. And they stick with you longer than any wild chase or fight ever could. The lighthouse beam swept again across the water, touching them with its golden light before gliding away. The waves whispered, the stars twinkled, and Popeye's soft humming wove a melody that seemed to wrap the entire dock in warmth. Olive let out a soft, contented sigh. I could stay here forever, she murmured. Popeye chuckled, leaning back slightly to watch her face bathed in moonlight. Aye, and I'd be right here with you, Olive. Nights like this, they're rare. Best savored, best shared, just like the sea's quiet treasures. They fell into a gentle silence, the kind where words aren't necessary. Popeye's eyes traced the constellations above, occasionally humming a soft tune, while Olive let her gaze drift between the stars and the moonlit waves. Each ripple seemed alive with silver light, a reflection of the sky and their shared peace. You know, Popeye, Olive whispered after a while, I think the sea and stars are talking to each other. Maybe about us. Maybe about quiet nights like this. Popeye smiled, his voice low and warm. Aye, maybe they are. And if they are, I reckon they approve. Nights like this, calm, gentle, perfect, they deserve a little blessing. Olive let out a soft laugh, the sound carried lightly by the breeze. Then we're lucky, she whispered. We get to enjoy it. Popeye's grin softened into a rare tenderness. Aye, lucky indeed. And the best part, we got each other for it. Sharing the quiet, the stars, the sea, all of it. The night continued to cradle them in its quiet rhythm. Popeye hummed softly, Olive rested against him, and the waves lapped gently like a lullaby. The stars reflected in the water, the moonlight shimmered across the gentle waves, and the lighthouse kept its steady, watchful glow. Every sound, every flicker of light, every ripple of the sea seemed to whisper peace. And as they lingered together, the stars twinkling above, the water glowing below, and the soft hum of the sailor's tune filling the space between them, Popeye and Olive felt the quiet magic of the night settle around them, a magic that promised calm, comfort, and a gentle transition toward dreams yet to come. The night had settled into a perfect soft stillness. The waves lapped gently against the dock, each ripple catching the silver glow of the moon, while the lighthouse's sweeping beam painted slow, fleeting strokes of light across the water. Popeye and Olive sat side by side, the lantern flickering softly beside them, casting warm shadows that danced across their faces. Olive's head rested lightly on Popeye's shoulder, her scarf brushing softly in the breeze, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. "I think the stars are brighter tonight than usual," Olive murmured softly, tilting her head to watch the constellations, almost like they're celebrating or telling a story. Popeye chuckled lowly, a sound as soothing as the tide. "Aye, they do have stories to tell, and lucky for us, we get front row seats." He hummed a soft tune, letting the melody drift across the gentle waves. Olive listened, eyes glimmering in the lantern's glow, letting the rhythm wrap around her like a comforting blanket. "You ever wonder what the little sailor in your story dreams about?" she asked, her voice dreamy. Popeye's rough grin softened into something tender. "Aye, he dreams of nights like this. Calm seas, stars overhead, someone special beside him. That's the dream every sailor holds close. Not the wild storms, not the battles, just the quiet moments that make the heart feel full." Olive smiled, letting her fingers lightly brush over his. "I think that's my favorite kind of adventure," she whispered. "Not the ones with danger or excitement, and the quiet ones, like this." Popeye nodded, his one eye narrowing thoughtfully. "Aye, the quiet ones teach you more than the storms ever could. They remind a sailor what matters, and sometimes the best part is who you share it with." The waves shimmered under the moonlight, reflecting a million tiny stars of their own. Olive tilted her head, following the silver path the moon had carved across the water. "It's beautiful, like the sea itself is alive," she said softly. Popeye smiled, a gentle warmth in his expression. "Aye, alive and watchful, and it's teaching us to treasure moments like this, calm, peaceful, perfect in their own way." Olive let out a soft sigh, closing her eyes briefly. "I wish nights like this lasted forever," she murmured. Popeye's chuckle rumbled softly, and he leaned back, letting the sway of the dock carry them gently. "Aye, a sailor feels the same, Olive. But even if the night ends, the memory, the feeling, it stays with you. Keeps you warm when the wind blows cold, and the stars hide behind clouds." She smiled softly, resting more fully against him. "I like that," she said. "The memory staying with us, like a little treasure." Popeye's rough hand brushed gently over hers. "Aye, the best kind of treasure. No maps, no chasing, just hearts knowing what's precious." For a while, they simply sat together, letting the waves, the stars, and the lighthouse's beam create a perfect harmony around them. Popeye hummed, Olive listened, and the world seemed to shrink to the little cocoon of warmth and quiet around the dock. Every ripple of the water, every flicker of light, every whisper of the wind seemed to sing a lullaby meant just for them. "You know, Popeye," Olive whispered after a while, "the sea and stars, they feel like friends tonight, watching over us." Popeye's grin softened into a rare tenderness. "Aye, and good friends they are, protecting the dock, the waves, and the sailor with his fine companion." Olive giggled softly, nestling even closer. "I think we're very lucky," she said. Popeye chuckled, the sound deep and comforting. "Aye, lucky indeed. And the best part? We got all this. Quiet, stars, sea, and each other." The night carried on, timeless and tender. Popeye's hum shifted lower, softer, wrapping around them like the gentle sway of the dock. Olive's breathing grew even steadier, eyes closing briefly to savor the comfort of his presence and the lull of the waves. The lighthouse's beam swept slowly across the water. The stars twinkled endlessly above, and the moonlight shimmered on the gentle ripples, creating a scene so serene it felt like the world had paused just for them. And in that quiet magic, Popeye and Olive felt the heart of the night embrace them fully. The ocean whispered its lullaby, the stars twinkled their stories, and the little lantern glowed like a warm heartbeat beside them. Peace, comfort, and a tender sense of wonder wrapped them in a perfect, gentle cocoon, one that would carry them slowly toward dreams, while the memories of the nights glimmered in their hearts like tiny stars, forever bright. The moon hung low and luminous over the water, spilling silver light across the gentle waves. The reflection danced and shimmered, as if the ocean itself had been sprinkled with tiny diamonds, stretching all the way to the horizon. Popeye and Olive remained seated on the dock, shoulders touching lightly, letting the rhythmic lap of the water become the soundtrack to their night. The lantern flickered softly beside them, painting warm, cozy shadows across their faces, and the lighthouse continued its slow, patient sweep across the water, like a sleepy guardian leaping watch. Olive leaned forward slightly, her eyes tracing the silvery path of the moon on the waves. "Look at it, Popeye," she whispered. "It's like the sea itself is dreaming. Or maybe it's reflecting the dreams of the stars." Popeye's soft chuckle mingled with the whispering waves. "Aye, the sea dreams, Olive. Dreams of far-off lands, brave sailors, and nights just like this. Sometimes it even shares its dreams with those who take the time to watch and listen." She smiled, tilting her head against his shoulder. "I like listening. It makes the night feel alive, like the water and the stars are talking to each other." Popeye nodded, his rough hand brushing lightly over hers. "Aye, and sometimes the best stories are the ones the sea whispers to quiet hearts. Nights like this, they're made for listening." The gentle sway of the dock beneath them, the soft hum of Popeye's sailor tune, and the distant lull of the waves created a perfect, tranquil rhythm. Olive closed her eyes for a moment, letting the magic of the moonlit reflection fill her senses. "Do you think the little sailor from your story ever saw nights like this?" she asked softly. Popeye's gaze softened, his voice lowering to that gentle, storytelling tone. "Aye, he did. Nights when the ocean was calm, the stars twinkling like tiny lanterns, and the moon painting silver ribbons across the waves. Nights when he realized the greatest adventures weren't always fought with fists or storms. Sometimes they were felt, quiet, steady, full of wonder." Olive's fingers traced patterns along the dock, as though trying to capture some of that wonder in her touch. "I think I understand," she murmured. The little sailor, he learned that calm moments could be just as magical as big adventures. Popeye nodded, one eye crinkling fondly. "Aye, and he learned that the best kind of magic comes from having someone to share it with. Nights like this, the stars, the sea, and a good companion by your side." The moon's reflection rippled softly, shimmering across the gentle waves. Olive's eyes followed each flicker, as if the sea were trying to tell her a secret. "It feels like the water itself is alive," she whispered, "like it remembers every sailor who ever passed by, every quiet night, every story." Popeye's soft chuckle rumbled across the dock. "Aye, the sea remembers, and the memories are happy ones when shared with the right folks, just like tonight." They fell into a comfortable silence, letting the night carry them. Popeye's humming shifted slightly, a tender, lilting rhythm that perfectly matched the soft lapping of the waves. Olive rested her head more fully against his shoulder, her scarf fluttering gently in the breeze, and let herself be carried by the calm of the moment. Tell me more about the little sailor, Olive whispered after a while, her voice barely above the murmur of the ocean. Popeye grinned softly, lowering his voice even further, letting it mingle with the hush of the sea. Aye, the little sailor loved the quiet nights most of all. He'd sit on his tiny dock, watch the stars, and listen to the waves, dreaming of faraway lands and the people he cared about. But he knew, no matter how far he sailed, nights like these were the true treasures. Olive closed her eyes again, letting the soft silver glow of the moon and the gentle sound of Popeye's voice lull her senses. I think he would have liked tonight, she murmured. Popeye's grin deepened, his rough hand brushing gently over hers. Aye, he would. Nights with calm seas, moonlight, and the company of someone who makes every ripple and twinkle feel special. Nights you don't forget. The waves lapped softly against the dock, and the lighthouse's light swept lazily over the water, illuminating patches of silver. Popeye continued softly, letting his words float across the gentle waves. He knew that every quiet night, every starlit moment, was a reminder that even in a world full of storms, battles, and adventures, the heart finds peace when it's shared, and that peace, that calm, and that's the real treasure. Olive's smile softened, her eyes glimmering in the lantern's warm light. I think I understand, Popeye. I feel it too. Popeye's rough, tender chuckle filled the night. Aye, and that, Olive, is what makes nights like this worth savoring. The moon, the stars of the sea, and the hearts that appreciate it. The moonlight shimmered across the gentle waves, each ripple catching the silver glow and scattering it like tiny stars across the surface of the water. Olive rested her head lightly against Popeye's shoulder, eyes half closed, her scarf brushing softly in the breeze. "It's amazing," she whispered, "how the water reflects the moon, like the sea is holding a secret just for us." Popeye chuckled softly, the sound low and comforting. "Aye, the sea's full of secrets, Olive, but it shares them with folks who take the time to sit and listen. Quiet hearts, they hear the best tales." Olive let out a soft sigh, closing her eyes fully this time, letting the gentle sway of the dock and the lull of the waves carry her into the magic of the night. "Do you think the little sailor ever felt nights like this? Calm and perfect?" she asked dreamily. Popeye's grin softened, one eye narrowing with fondness. Aye, he did. Nights when the moon painted silver paths across the water, when the stars twinkled like tiny lanterns, and the waves whispered lullabies just for him. Nights where he realized that the best treasures weren't in gold or glory, but in quiet moments shared with someone special. Olive shifted slightly, letting her fingers brush against his hand. "I like that," she murmured. "I think that's my favorite kind of adventure." Popeye's deep, gruff chuckle rumbled across the dock. "Aye, and that's the kind of adventure a sailor never forgets. Storms and battles fade, Olive, but nights like this, they linger. Stick with you like a warm breeze on a cold morning." The waves glimmered under the moonlight, and Olive's eyes followed each flicker, as if the sea itself were trying to tell her a secret. "It feels alive," she whispered, "like the water remembers every sailor who ever passed by, every quiet night, every story." Popeye nodded, letting his voice lower to a gentle murmur. "Aye, the sea remembers. And when those memories are shared with someone who listens, they shine brighter than any star in the sky." Olive smiled softly, snuggling closer, letting the sway of the dock cradle her. "I think I understand now," she said. "Adventures don't always need wind or waves. Sometimes it's enough to just be here." Popeye's grin softened, and he brushed his rough hand over hers. "Aye, exactly, Olive. Nights like this, they're the real adventures. The quiet ones, shared with someone who makes the heart feel light." A gentle breeze ruffled her scarf, and Popeye adjusted slightly so she could rest more comfortably against him. The lantern flickered, sending soft, warm shadows across the dock and their faces. The lighthouse swept its lazy, golden beam over the water, and for a moment, it seemed as though time itself had slowed, allowing the night to stretch forever. "You know, Popeye," Olive whispered, after a long pause, "the moon looks like it's smiling at us tonight." Popeye's deep chuckle resonated softly across the dock. "Aye, maybe it is. Or maybe it just knows. Nights like this deserve a little grin. Calm seas, bright stars, and two folks sitting together watching it all." Olive giggled quietly, letting herself sink a little deeper against him. "I think we're very lucky," she murmured. Popeye's grin softened, his one eye crinkling. "Aye, lucky indeed. Lucky to have quiet nights, moonlight, and the company of someone who appreciates it all." The waves whispered, the stars twinkled, and Popeye's hum continued, low and tender, perfectly matching the rhythm of the ocean. Olive let herself drift, her head resting fully on his shoulder, soaking in the silver shimmer of moonlight on the waves. The little sailor in Popeye's story would have felt the same kind of peace, and she could feel it too, warm and steady, like the softest blanket. "Tell me one more story, Popeye," Olive murmured, her voice drowsy. Popeye's grin deepened, and he leaned back slightly, letting the dock's gentle sway cradle them both. "Aye, one more story," he said, his voice low and soothing, "about the little sailor, the stars, and the night that taught him. Sometimes the best treasures aren't found in adventure, but in calm, in moonlight, and in hearts that care." Olive smiled softly, her eyes closing fully. "I like that story," she whispered. "It's perfect." Popeye's chuckle was a soft rumble, blending with the waves. "Aye, perfect indeed, Olive. And the night's not over yet. We've got a while longer to enjoy." They settled in, letting the hum of the sea, the flicker of the lantern, and the gentle sway of the dock lull them further into peace. The moon reflected endlessly across the water, the stars twinkled like gentle reminders of quiet magic, and the lighthouse stood steadfast, its beam tracing lazy arcs across the waves. Every sound, every shimmer, every gentle gust of wind seemed to weave a perfect cocoon around them, a cocoon of warmth, comfort, and the promise of dreams yet to come. The moonlight shimmered across the ocean like a river of silver, each wave catching the glow and sending tiny sparkles across the surface. Olive's head rested lightly on Popeye's shoulder, her eyes half-lidded, and her scarf fluttered softly in the gentle night breeze. The dock beneath them creaked faintly with the sway of the waves, as though it, too, were breathing along with them. "It's so peaceful tonight," Olive murmured, her voice almost a whisper, "like the world slowed down just for us." Popeye chuckled softly, his deep, gruff voice gentle as the tide. "Aye, that's the beauty of nights like this, Olive. No storms, no rush, just the stars, the sea, and a little bit of quiet magic. Makes a sailor appreciate what he's got." He shifted slightly so that Olive could lean even closer, letting the warmth of their closeness mingle with the soft sea breeze. Olive watched the rippling reflection of the moon, her finger tracing invisible paths across the silver waves. "Do you think the little sailor in your story ever felt nights like this?" she asked, her voice dreamy. Popeye's grin softened, one eye crinkling. "Aye, he did. Nights when the ocean was calm, stars twinkled like tiny lanterns, and the moon painted paths of silver across the water. Nights when he realized The best adventures didn't always need wind or battles. Sometimes they were found in quiet moments like this. Olive smiled softly, letting the gentle rhythm of the waves lull her senses. I think I understand. It's like the calm nights are the real treasures, right? Popeye nodded slowly, brushing his rough hand lightly over hers. Aye, the real treasures. Nights like this teach a sailor more than any storm could. The stars, the moon, the sea, and good company. That's what matters most. The waves whispered beneath them, shimmering with moonlight, and Olive let her gaze wander along the silver path, stretching to the horizon. It feels like the sea remembers every sailor who ever sat here. Every quiet night, every story. Popeye's voice dropped to a soft murmur, blending perfectly with the hum of the ocean. Aye, and the memories shine brighter when shared with someone who listens. That's the true magic, Olive. She giggled softly, nestling closer to him. I like listening. It makes me feel like I'm part of the story. Popeye chuckled, a deep rumble that matched the waves. And that's exactly what a good story is for. To share. To make quiet moments even better with the right company. The lantern beside them flickered, casting gentle shadows across the wooden dock and the folds of Olive's scarf. The lighthouse's beam cut across the water slowly, illuminating small glimmers of silver and gold on the waves. Popeye began humming again, a low sailor's tune that drifted lazily across the water. Olive closed her eyes, letting the melody wrap around her like a soft blanket, her head resting fully on his shoulder. You know, Popeye, she murmured after a while, I think the moon and the stars are talking to each other tonight. Maybe about us. Maybe about quiet nights like this. Popeye grinned, his one eye crinkling. Aye, maybe they are. And if they are, I reckon they approve. Nights like this, calm, gentle, perfect. They deserve a little blessing. Olive's fingers traced soft patterns along the dock, and Popeye's rough hand brushed gently over hers. I think we're very lucky, she whispered. Popeye's chuckle was soft, tender. Aye, lucky indeed. Lucky to have calm seas, bright stars, and a fine companion to share it with. The waves carried their lullaby. The lantern flickered, and the stars twinkled endlessly above. Popeye continued softly, his voice blending with the gentle lap of the waves. The little sailor learned that even in a world full of storms, peace could be found in moonlight, in calm water, and in hearts that care. That's the treasure, Olive. And tonight, we've got it all around us. Olive sighed softly, closing her eyes, letting the silver glow of the moon and the sound of the waves carry her deeper into a peaceful state. The night cocooned them in its quiet rhythm, a perfect blend of gentle light, tender warmth, and the soft promise of dreams yet to come. The silver moonlight shimmered across the gentle waves, each ripple glinting like a million tiny lanterns dancing on the water. Olive let herself sink even closer to Popeye, her head resting fully on his shoulder, eyes half closed, as she soaked in the peaceful magic of the night. The dock beneath them swayed ever so slightly with the rhythm of the sea, as if it, too, were breathing alongside them. I love how the moon makes the waves sparkle, Olive murmured softly, her voice carried gently by the breeze. It feels like the sea is alive. Popeye's deep chuckle rumbled against the quiet of the night. Aye, the sea's alive in its own way. Every wave, every ripple, it's got stories to tell. And the best ones, they're shared with quiet hearts like yours, Olive. Olive smiled softly, letting her fingers trace light patterns along the dock. I think the little sailor would have loved nights like this, she whispered. Calm seas, stars above, and someone special to share it with. Popeye nodded, his one eye crinkling fondly. He would. Nights like this, they teach you what really matters. Not the storms, not the battles, but the calm moments, the little treasures hidden in the quiet, and the company you share it with. That's the real magic. The waves lapped gently against the dock, shimmering under the moonlight. Olive followed the silver path, stretching across the water, letting the soft glow lull her senses. "Do you think the stars notice it?" she asked softly. Popeye chuckled, leaning back a little as he rested comfortably on the dock. "Aye, the stars notice. They shine a bit brighter for folks who sit and watch, for folks who appreciate the quiet. And tonight, I reckon they're twinkling for us." Olive giggled softly, her scarf fluttering gently in the breeze. "I feel like the stars are happy we're here together," she whispered. Popeye's grin softened into a rare tenderness. "Aye, I reckon they are. Nights like this, calm seas, moonlight, and good company. They deserve to be celebrated, even by the stars." The lantern beside them flickered, casting gentle shadows across the dock and their faces. The lighthouse's beam swept lazily over the water, illuminating tiny glimmers on the waves. Popeye began humming again, a soft sailor's tune that drifted across the night. Olive closed her eyes fully this time, letting the melody wrap around her like a comforting blanket. "You know, Popeye," she murmured sleepily, "I think the little sailor learned the most from nights like this. Not from storms or adventures, but from quiet moments, moonlight, and friends who care." Popeye's rough, gentle chuckle filled the dock. "Aye, and that's the secret, Olive. The calm moments. They stick with you longer than any storm or battle. Nights like this, they become memories that shine brighter than any treasure." Olive snuggled closer, feeling the gentle sway of the dock beneath them and the soft rhythm of the waves. "I think I'm lucky," she whispered, "to be here with you and the sea and the stars." Popeye's grin softened, and his hand brushed lightly over hers. "Aye, lucky indeed. Nights like this, they don't come often. But when they do, they remind a sailor, and a fine lady, what truly matters." The waves whispered quietly, shimmering under the moonlight, and the stars twinkled endlessly above. Popeye continued softly, letting his voice drift across the gentle sea. The little sailor, he knew that the greatest treasures weren't in gold or glory, but in moments like this, calm nights, bright stars, and hearts that care. That's the real treasure, Olive. And tonight we've got it all around us. Olive's breathing slowed, her head resting fully against Popeye, eyes closed as the magic of the night wrapped around her. The dock creaked softly beneath them, the waves lapped in gentle rhythm, and the lighthouse swept its golden beam across the water. Every shimmer, every whisper of the sea, every flicker of light felt like a lullaby crafted just for them. Popeye's humming softened, almost imperceptibly, blending seamlessly with the lull of the waves. Olive's contented sighs mingled with the gentle breeze, and the moonlight continued to dance across the water. The night held them in a perfect, serene embrace, a calm so deep, it felt like time itself had slowed to honor the quiet magic of the moment. The moonlight shimmered gently across the calm sea, silver threads stretching to the horizon, weaving a path that seemed almost magical. Olive rested fully on Popeye's shoulder now, her eyes half closed, listening to the soft hum of his sailor tune that drifted lazily across the dock. The waves lapped quietly, each ripple reflecting the moon and stars, creating a shimmering symphony of light that mirrored the warmth in her heart. Popeye's voice softened, low and gentle, carrying the story of the little sailor across the night. Aye, the little sailor learned that the sea had a voice all its own. It spoke in whispers, in the sway of the waves, and the silver paths of the moon. And he realized that the best treasures weren't the ones you could hold in your hands, but the ones you feel deep inside in quiet nights like this. Olive let out a soft sigh, her head nuzzling a little closer against him. I feel that treasure too, she whispered sleepily. It's like the stars, the moon, and the sea are hugging us all at once. Popeye chuckled softly, his gruff voice warm as a blanket. Aye, that's the way of it, Olive. Nights like this, they wrap you up in calm, in magic, and in moments that stick with you forever. The lantern flickered gently beside them, casting soft golden shadows across their faces, while the lighthouse's slow, sweeping beam painted lazy streaks of light across the water. Olive's fingers brushed lightly against his, her small gesture a quiet testament to the comfort of the moment. Popeye's hand found hers, rough yet tender, squeezing gently. Aye, I'll keep watch, Olive. Always. Her eyes closed fully, a contented smile on her lips. I know you will, Popeye, she murmured. I feel safe here. With you, with the sea, and the stars. The waves whispered in response, their gentle lap against the dock forming a soft, endless lullaby. Popeye's hum shifted even lower, blending seamlessly with the rhythm of the ocean. Every note, every ripple, every flicker of light felt like a tender promise, a promise of safety, warmth, and peace. He continued softly, telling the final whispers of his sailor story. The little sailor? He discovered that no matter how wild the world got, how rough the seas or loud the storms, peace could always be found in moonlight, in quiet waves, and in hearts that care. And when you find that, when you sit here sharing the moment with someone special, you found the greatest treasure of all. Olive let out a soft, sleepy laugh, resting her head more comfortably. I think he would have loved tonight, she murmured. The sea, the stars, the quiet, and you. Popeye's grin softened into something tender, rare. Aye, he would, Olive. And so do I. Nights like this, they're rare, precious, with every moment of stillness, every gentle wave, every soft twinkle in the sky. The waves lapped gently against the dock, and the silver reflection of the moon shimmered endlessly across the water. Olive's breathing grew slower, deeper, perfectly synced with the rhythm of the night. Popeye's hum faded into a tender, rhythmic murmur, letting the sea and stars carry the lullaby forward. Every shimmer, every whisper of the breeze, every soft creak of the dock became a gentle, soothing melody. You know, Popeye, Olive murmured in her drowsy voice, I think the little sailor taught me something. Popeye's one eye twitched slightly, a soft smile tugging at his lips. Aye, and what's that, Olive? That the calm, the quiet, and the people we care about are the real adventures. Popeye's deep chuckle rumbled softly. Aye, the real adventures indeed, Olive. And tonight, we've got it all. As the night deepened, Olive slowly drifted fully to sleep, her head resting on Popeye's shoulder. The gentle sway of the dock, the soft shimmer of the moon on the waves, and the distant lighthouse beam created a perfect serene cocoon. Popeye's rough hand rested lightly on hers, his hum fading into the rhythm of the waves. He whispered softly, in that gruff yet tender sailor tone, Sleep well, Olive. I'll always keep watch. The words floated across the water, blending with the gentle lap of the waves, carrying the promise of safety and warmth. Popeye's eyes softened as he gazed at the moonlit sea, letting the night's magic hold them both. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he leaned back, letting the calm of the ocean, the soft silver moonlight, and the peaceful rhythm of the waves guide him towards sleep. The gentle lullaby of the seaside night, wrapping them in its quiet embrace. And so, under the twinkling stars, the gentle sweep of the lighthouse, and the endless shimmer of the calm sea, the little dock became a haven of warmth and peace. The night held them, timeless and tender, a memory of moonlight, friendship, and quiet love that would linger forever in the hearts of Popeye and Olive. The night had deepened into the softest kind of calm. The moon hung high above the water, casting its silver glow across the gentle waves, each ripple catching the light like tiny sparks dancing across the sea. Olive rested fully on Popeye's shoulder now, her breathing slow and steady. Eyelids heavy as sleep wrapped her in a warm, comforting embrace. Popeye's rough hand brushed lightly over hers, his other hand resting on the dock as he leaned back slightly, letting the gentle sway of the wooden planks cradle them both. The lighthouse in the distance continued its slow, steady sweep across the ocean, a soft golden beam tracing lazy arcs over the waves. It was a quiet sentinel watching over the dock, the sea, and the sailor with his dear companion. Popeye's humming had slowed to a barely audible murmur, blending seamlessly with the lull of the water. Each lap of the waves, each whisper of the breeze felt like a gentle heartbeat, syncing perfectly with the rhythm of their quiet night. Olive's head rested softly against him, her scarf fluttering slightly in the breeze. "Popeye," she murmured sleepily, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you. For tonight." Popeye's one eye softened, crinkling with warmth, and he leaned a little closer, careful not to disturb her rest. No need for thanks, Olive. Nights like this, they're meant to be shared. And tonight, we got the best of the sea, the stars, and each other." She let out a contented sigh, curling slightly into him, feeling safe and cherished in the gentle sway of the dock and the lull of the waves. "It feels like the ocean is singing to us," she murmured, her voice drifting off as her eyelids grew heavier. Popeye chuckled softly, a deep, tender rumble. "Aye, the ocean's got a song for quiet hearts. Just listen. Let it wrap around you." The lantern beside them flickered softly, casting warm, dancing shadows across the dock and the folds of Olive's scarf. The gentle shimmer of the moon on the water created a silvery path stretching all the way to the horizon. Popeye's gaze followed the reflection, letting his mind wander in the calm magic of the night. He thought of every quiet moment, every gentle wave, every soft twinkle in the sky that had led them here, to this perfect peace. "Do you think the little sailor would be proud?" Olive murmured sleepily, her voice soft and drowsy. Popeye smiled, a rare tenderness in his expression. "Aye, he'd be proud. Nights like this, calm seas, moonlight, and someone who appreciates it all. That's exactly what he dreamed of, and we found it tonight." The waves lapped gently against the dock, and Popeye shifted slightly so that Olive could rest even more comfortably against him. Her soft breathing became a gentle rhythm, perfectly synced with the natural lullaby of the ocean. The lighthouse's beam swept slowly across the water again, illuminating patches of silver, golden reflections dancing on the gentle ripples. The dock creaked faintly with the sway of the tide, a comforting sound that blended seamlessly with the soft hum of Popeye's tune. "Sleep well, Olive," Popeye murmured, his voice low and tender, rough, but filled with warmth. "I'll keep watch. Always." Olive let out a soft, sleepy sigh, a small smile curling on her lips. "I know you will, Popeye," she whispered, drifting further into slumber. The gentle sway of the dock, the shimmer of moonlight, and the soft rhythm of the waves wrapped them in a cocoon of calm. Popeye's eyes softened as he gazed at the silver path stretching across the sea, letting the quiet magic of the night settle around them. The sea continued its lullaby. The stars twinkled overhead, and the lighthouse stood steadfast, its light sweeping over the water in slow, comforting arcs. Popeye's hum faded to nearly nothing, blending entirely with the gentle sound of the waves. The little dock had become a haven, a tiny world of silver reflections, warm lantern glow, and tender peace. Olive's breathing was steady now, and Popeye let his gaze linger on the horizon, the shimmer of moonlight on the water and the distant stars above, feeling the night's serenity sink deep into his sailor's heart. The silver moonlight continued to dance across the gentle waves, sending soft flickers across the water that mirrored the warm glow of the lantern on the dock. Olive's head rested lightly on Popeye's shoulder, her soft breaths rising and falling in a calm, steady rhythm. The gentle sway of the dock beneath them, combined with the tender hum of Popeye's sailor tune, created a perfect lullaby. Each lap of the waves whispered peace, and the night felt infinite, as though time itself had paused to honor this moment of quiet togetherness. Popeye's rough hand rested lightly on hers, fingers brushing gently over hers in a quiet gesture of reassurance. Sleep easy, Olive," he murmured softly, his voice low and tender. "The sea, the stars, and me will keep watch, always." Olive let out a contented sigh, a soft smile curling on her lips, even as her eyes closed fully. "I feel safe and happy," she murmured, drifting closer into him. The lighthouse continued its slow sweep across the waves, casting fleeting streaks of gold that danced across the water. The stars twinkled endlessly above, reflecting like tiny lanterns scattered across the sea's surface. Every shimmer, every soft flicker of light, every whisper of the gentle breeze carried a sense of warmth and serenity. Popeye leaned back slightly, letting the calm of the night wash over him, feeling the gentle rhythm of the waves sync perfectly with Olive's breathing and the soft hum escaping his lips. "It's nights like this," Popeye whispered softly, "that remind a sailor what truly matters. Not the storms, not the battles, not the faraway lands, but quiet moments like these, shared with someone who makes the heart feel full." He let his gaze drift over the moonlit water, watching the reflection ripple and shimmer in the gentle tide. The world felt hushed, as though it too was listening to his words and the unspoken promise of safety and warmth surrounding them. Olive stirred slightly, letting her head nuzzle more comfortably against his shoulder. I think I'll remember this night forever," she murmured sleepily, her voice soft like the lap of the waves against the dock. Popeye's rough chuckle rumbled softly, warm and tender. "Aye, and I will too, Olive. Nights like this, they're the treasures of a sailor's heart. Silver moon, calm sea, and you right here beside me." The waves lapped quietly, their gentle rhythm, like a soft drumbeat keeping time with the stars above. Olive's fingers twined lightly with Popeye's, and he shifted just enough to let her rest more comfortably, careful not to disturb her slumber. The lantern flickered, casting a comforting golden glow across the dock and their faces, painting them in soft, warm light. Popeye's hum grew quieter, blending seamlessly with the soft whisper of the breeze and the rhythmic lap of the tide. "You're a good sailor, Popeye," Olive murmured softly, still half asleep. "Even without storms or battles, you know how to guide someone safely to peaceful moments." Popeye's grin softened, tender and rare. "Aye, that's the kind of adventure I like best, Olive. the kind that doesn't need speed or noise, just calm seas, moonlight, and someone to share it with. Her soft sigh merged with the whisper of the waves, creating a perfect symphony of gentle peace. Popeye adjusted slightly, letting the sway of the dock cradle them both in a slow, soothing rhythm. The lighthouse's beams swept across the water one last time before gliding away, leaving the moonlight to shimmer freely across the ripples. Every flicker, every soft reflection, every whisper of the ocean seemed to wrap around them like a warm, protective blanket. "Sleep well, Olive," Popeye murmured again, his voice rough yet tender, blending with the gentle hum of the waves. "I'll always keep watch. Always." Olive let out a soft, sleepy laugh, curling slightly into him. "I know, and I feel it," she whispered. The night held them tightly in its quiet embrace, the stars twinkling above, the moon painting silver across the sea, and the waves forming a constant lullaby. And as the night deepened further, Popeye's eyes began to close, his rough features softening into peaceful calm. The gentle rocking of the dock, the hum of the ocean, and the quiet shimmer of moonlight carried them both into a world of serene dreams, wrapping them in warmth, love, and the magic of a perfect, peaceful seaside night. The night stretched on, quiet and gentle, each wave glimmering under the moonlight like scattered silver. Olive's head rested softly against Popeye's shoulder, her breathing slow and rhythmic, perfectly in sync with the gentle lull of the ocean. The dock beneath them creaked ever so faintly with the tide's sway, adding its own tender heartbeat to the night's symphony. Popeye's hand brushed lightly over hers, rough yet careful, grounding her in the serene magic of the moment. "I like nights like this," Olive murmured, her voice soft and drowsy, barely above the whisper of the waves. Quiet, calm, and safe. Popeye's deep chuckle rumbled through the night, comforting and warm. "Aye, that's the way of it, Olive. Nights like this, they teach a sailor that the best adventures aren't always loud or wild. They're the ones that make the heart feel steady and full." She smiled softly, eyes half closed, letting herself sink deeper against him. "It feels like the sea, the moon, and the stars are all singing just for us," she whispered. Popeye nodded, one eye narrowing gently in reflection. "Aye, and it's a song worth listening to, quiet, soft, full of silver light and gentle waves. Nights like this, they're rare, Olive, precious, worth every second." The lantern beside them flickered softly, its warm light dancing across the dock, highlighting the folds of Olive's scarf and the gentle sway of Popeye's sailor hat in the breeze. The lighthouse's golden beam cut across the water, lazily tracing arcs over the gentle ripples. Every flicker of light, every glint of moon on the waves seemed to echo the calm, quiet heartbeat of the night. Olive let out a contented sigh, her fingers lightly brushing Popeye's. I think this is my favorite kind of adventure," she whispered sleepily. "Not the ones with storms or excitement, but nights like this." Popeye's soft, gruff chuckle was low and tender. "Aye, the best kind of adventure, Olive. The kind that leaves you warm inside, long after the stars fade and the waves slow down." The gentle lap of the waves against the dock formed a perfect lullaby, blending seamlessly with Popeye's soft humming. Olive's head tilted slightly, resting more comfortably against his shoulder, and her eyes finally closed, drifting toward sleep. Popeye watched the silver reflection of the moon ripple across the water, letting the calm magic of the night sink into his sailor's heart. "You're asleep already, huh?" he murmured gently, a rare softness in his gruff tone. A small, contented smile curled on her lips, the only answer he needed. Popeye shifted slightly, careful not to disturb her, letting the sway of the dock and the gentle rhythm of the sea cradle them both. "Aye, sleep well, Olive," he whispered. "I'll keep watch. Always." The stars twinkled above like tiny guardians, and the moon hung low, its silver path stretching across the calm sea. The lighthouse continued its slow, steady sweep, casting fleeting golden streaks over the waves. Popeye's hum faded into the gentle whispers of the ocean, becoming one with the soft rhythm of the night. Every creak of the dock, every shimmer of moonlight on the water, every whisper of the breeze seemed designed to lull them deeper into peace. Olive shifted slightly in her sleep, curling closer, and Popeye adjusted gently, letting the dock rock them just enough to create a perfect cradle of warmth and serenity. This is a real treasure," he murmured softly. "The sea, the stars, the moon, and the hearts that share it. That's what keeps a sailor happy, no matter what the world throws at him." The waves lapped quietly, and the silver shimmer of the moon reflected endlessly across the water. Olive's soft breathing and Popeye's steady presence created a cocoon of calm, a tiny world where only warmth, serenity, and gentle magic existed. The night carried on, timeless and tender, each moment stretching peacefully, leaving the dock, the sea, and the two companions wrapped in an endless lullaby. The gentle rocking of the dock carried them slowly, like a cradle made by the sea itself. The moon's silver reflection stretched across the water, rippling gently with each wave, painting everything in soft, dreamlike light. Olive's head rested fully against Popeye's shoulder, her breathing deep and steady. A quiet rhythm that perfectly matched the hum of the ocean and the faint flicker of the lantern beside them. Popeye's rough hand lightly brushed her hair back, careful not to disturb her sleep. His other hand rested on the dock, steady and protective. "Aye, sleep well, Olive," he murmured softly, his gruff voice carrying warmth and calm. "The sea, the stars, I'll always be watching over you." A small, contented sigh escaped her, the only response he needed. She was safe, peaceful, and wrapped in the calm magic of the night. The lighthouse in the distance continued its slow, steady sweep, casting golden arcs over the gentle waves. Each flicker of light, each ripple of the water seemed to whisper serenity into the night. The stars twinkled endlessly above, reflected in the ocean like scattered diamonds. Popeye's sailor tune had softened to a barely audible murmur, blending seamlessly with the natural rhythm of the waves in the quiet night. Olive stirred slightly in her sleep, curling closer into him. "Feels like we're floating in a dream," she murmured softly, her words melting into the gentle night. Popeye smiled, a rare tenderness in his one eye. "Aye, we are, Olive. Nights like this, they're for dreams, for quiet hearts, for moments that linger forever in the soul." The waves lapped gently against the dock, each soft splash a soothing reminder of the calm and peace surrounding them. Olive's scarf fluttered lightly in the breeze, and Popeye adjusted slightly so she could rest more comfortably. "Aye, nights like this, they're the treasures a sailor never forgets," he whispered, his voice merging with the hum of the sea. "Silver moon, soft waves, and someone special to share it with. That's what counts." Olive's breathing grew even slower, deeper, syncing perfectly with the gentle cadence of the ocean. Popeye's gaze drifted over the shimmering water, watching the moonlight ripple across the surface. The stars above twinkled softly, casting tiny sparks of light on the waves. Every flicker, every whisper of the wind, every gentle sway of the dock became part of a tender lullaby for the night, wrapping them in warmth and serenity. "You're a good sailor, Popeye," Olive murmured sleepily, her voice barely audible. "Even when nothing's wrong, you still know how to keep me safe." Popeye's rough chuckle was soft, full of warmth. Aye, that's the way of it, Olive. A sailor's job isn't always about fighting storms or foes. Sometimes it's about finding peace and sharing it with those you care about. The gentle sway of the dock, and the soft shimmer of the moon on the waves, and the rhythmic hum of Popeye's tune created the perfect cocoon of calm. Olive let herself sink fully into sleep, head snug against him, her small hands resting lightly on his. Popeye's rough fingers twined softly with hers, a protective, comforting presence in the silver night. "Sleep well, Olive. I'll keep watch," Popeye whispered, his voice rough but tender, blending with the sound of the gentle waves. The moonlight shimmered across the water. The lighthouse cast its golden sweep, and the stars above twinkled quietly as though guarding the peaceful scene. Popeye's eyes softened, his sailor's heart at ease, letting the lullaby of the sea carry both of them deeper into the magic of the night. The night cocooned them fully, timeless and gentle. Each wave, each flicker of light, each whisper of the breeze blended into the softest symphony of peace. Popeye and Olive rested together, a quiet haven amidst the calm sea and the silver moonlight. The world felt hushed, infinite and tender, the perfect close to a night of soft wonder, warmth and companionship. The night had wrapped the world in a soft silver blanket. The moon reflected endlessly across the gentle waves, each ripple glimmering like scattered starlight, while the distant lighthouse swept its golden beam across the calm sea, slow and steady, a quiet sentinel watching over the two companions. Olive's head rested fully on Popeye's shoulder, her breathing deep and even, drifting further into the cocoon of sleep. Popeye's rough hand brushed lightly over hers, holding her close without disturbing her rest. The dock beneath them swayed gently with the tide, each tiny creak blending perfectly with the soft rhythm of the waves. Popeye's hum had long since faded to a tender murmur, almost inaudible, harmonizing with the whisper of the ocean. Every flicker of the lantern, every shimmer of moonlight on the water, and every gentle sway of the dock seemed orchestrated to lull them deeper into tranquility. Popeye's eyes softened as he gazed at the silver path stretching across the water. Nights like this," he whispered, his voice low and gruff yet full of warmth. "They're for remembering, for dreaming, for knowing that the world holds gentle treasures if ye take the time to notice them." Olive shifted slightly in her sleep, nestling closer, her small hand brushing softly against his. The stars above twinkled endlessly, mirrored perfectly in the calm sea below. The gentle breeze ruffled Olive's scarf and Popeye's hat, carrying with it the scent of the salty ocean and the soft hum of the night. "Sleep well, Olive," Popeye murmured again, almost as if speaking to the sea itself. "I'll always keep watch. Always." She let out a soft, contented sigh, the quietest affirmation, and drifted further into the peaceful embrace of slumber. The lighthouse's beam traced lazy arcs across the rippling waves, touching tiny glimmers of silver and gold, as if blessing the dock, the sea, and the two friends with its gentle light. Popeye shifted slightly so they could both rest fully, leaning back just enough to feel the rhythm of the tide beneath them. The lantern flickered, painting their faces in soft amber light, making the moment feel timeless, almost magical. "He's perfect, Popeye," Olive murmured, still half asleep, her voice soft as the ocean breeze. "Just perfect." Popeye's rare, tender smile tugged at his lips. Perfect indeed, Olive. Nights like this, they stay with a sailor forever. The moon, the stars, the waves, and the hearts that share it. That's the real treasure." The waves lapped gently against the dock, each soft splash forming a lullaby, that intertwined with Popeye's hum and Olive's even breathing. Every shimmer, every gentle whisper of the breeze, every soft creak of the dock added to the perfect symphony of peace. Popeye's gaze drifted over the endless silver path of moonlight, letting the calm settle deep into his sailor's heart. Olive's breathing slowed further, steady and serene as sleep claimed her fully. Popeye rested his chin lightly against the top of her head, his hand still lightly brushing hers. "Sleep easy, Olive. The sea, the stars. I'm right here," he murmured, his voice rough, low but filled with unwavering tenderness. "And I'll always keep watch." The night wrapped them completely, a timeless embrace of silver moonlight, calm waves, and soft whispers of the gentle breeze. The stars twinkled endlessly above, mirrored in the water below. The lantern flickered softly beside them, casting warm shadows across the dock. The lighthouse's slow sweep traced gentle golden arcs across the sea. Every sound, every shimmer, every tender movement seemed orchestrated by the night itself to lull them into perfect serenity. And there, on the quiet dock, under the silver moon, Popeye and Olive rested together. The waves sang a soft lullaby. The lighthouse kept its watch, and the stars twinkled like tiny guardians. Two hearts, one peaceful night, and a timeless moment of warmth, comfort, and gentle love. As the night continued its gentle rhythm, both Popeye and Olive drifted fully into sleep, held by the magic of moonlight, sea, and companionship. The soft sway of the dock, the silver shimmer of the waves, the tender flicker of the lantern, and the distant golden sweep of the lighthouse became their lullaby, carrying them into dreams as serene and endless as the calm ocean before them. And so in that quiet seaside town, beneath the moon and stars, with the ocean whispering its timeless song, Popeye and Olive slept peacefully, wrapped in warmth, safety, and the gentle, enduring magic of a perfect night by the sea. Good night, everyone. Until we meet again, let the sea and stars watch over you.